Hello and welcome to We the People. I'm Sarah Jacob. This week, in a spine-chilling case, a young domestic help was rescued from her employer's home in Gurugram, where she suffered horrific abuse for months. This young girl, a teenager from Jharkhand, was found with wounds all over her body. She had been treated barbarically, allegedly beaten with hot tongs and sticks by her employer, starved, forced to scrounge around the dustbin for food. And while there was a media uproar, this is not the first instance of such abuse. Just a few months ago, there was CCTV footage of a high-end residential society where a woman was seen beating and dragging her maid out of a lift, forcing her back into the house as if she were a bonded labourer. Before that, there are many other videos. There was a video of a woman slapping a security guard. Thousands of women and girls across our capitals and our second-tier cities are employed as domestic workers or domestic help in private households. They clean, they cook, they care for the children, they look after the elderly family members. They perform all essential tasks for their employers, and despite their important role, they're among the most exploited and abused. They're sometimes made to work between 14 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for sure, for wages that are far below the minimum wage. They can be locked within the workplace. They can be subject to physical and sexual violence. Children and migrant domestic workers are especially vulnerable. Why do we feel that because we're paying our helpers a salary, we own them? Where does this mindset come from? That's what we're asking on We the People tonight. And we have joining us, we have Rishi Kant, social activist, and also with the organization Shakti Vahini. We have Brinda Arige, also social activist, Amita Beher, CEO of Oxfam, Mehrunisa, who's been on the show before, but she is now, she started off as India's first female bouncer, but she now runs an organization that provides female bouncers and domestic help or house help to those who want it. And we have Deepika Bhardwaj, the journalist and documentary filmmaker who actually helped rescue this young girl. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to ask you, how is she doing, firstly, and how did you find out about this house of horror, and what made you decide to intervene, get involved? In India, we say, forget it, chhod do. She must have done something wrong, she must have done a chori, it's internal matter.
Sarah, it was 7th February morning when I got a call from an acquaintance. This person stays in Old Gurgaon, the new colony area, where this domestic help was working. He had been there at that society for some work, and I think this child was coming down to dispose of the trash or something, or probably she was trying to get some food from the trash which was there. And this young man called me and he said, Didi, I saw this. I'm like, I have no words of the torture that this young girl is being subjected to. Can you please do something? There's blood from her face. Her clothes are stained with blood, and I think they have burnt her as well. I said, this sounds really, really bad, and let me see what I could do. I use Twitter as a very strong medium of the public service that I do, Sarah. I immediately posted that, is there any rescue organization that can reach out to me? I tagged NCW as well. Didn't get any response. Then I called Preeti Bhardwaj Dalal. He's the former chairperson of Haryana State Commission for Women. And I had worked with her. She's a brilliant person, always responds to SOS helps. And she then asked me to get in touch with Pinky Malik, who is the One-Stop Sakhi Center head in Gurgaon. I told her the plight of this girl, and I gave her the address. I had got the address. And I sent her the address and I said, can you please do something? She immediately connected with Gurgaon Police, New Colony Police Station, and the SHO immediately sent a rescue team. The girl was recovered. I think the CWC was also involved. I'm not too sure what happened after that, but I did get a response from them after, I think, just 1.5 to 2 hours that the girl has been rescued.
Wow. And
she is in much, much worse condition than what you had thought. She has in exact lines of what I was told was, there's no body part of hers which we can even touch to, give her a soothing. That's how injured she is. And I was very happy that she was taken away from there. This couple was then detained. I would specifically mention their name, Manish Khattar and Kamaljeet Kaur. While I was at the police station, Sarah, I heard this woman, Kamaljeet, calling, her boss. And I immediately tagged the organizations of these two people and told them that, they need to really take action against them. Thankfully, the next day, both of them were sacked. I did not ignore this SOS request like I do not ignore any SOS requests that come to me. And I think we as human beings, we as responsible citizens, this is our, I think, responsibility to help people who are underprivileged and who do not have a voice.
May I just be a little presumptuous here to, Rishi, if I can ask you this. I am assuming that this is because of the nature of, your work. You're a journalist. This is what you do. These things bother you. You reach out, you follow up. What do people do? What does a help to who cannot look up the internet to find the names of these organizations? I want to ask you, Rishi, so what struck me was from Deepika's story is that clearly other people in the building were seeing her taking out that trash every day.
Yeah.
Why does... it seems to be for the upper middle class, not even upper middle class. Domestic help has become a punching bag. Why is it? What is this mentality? And also, not just in your home, it's everybody else around who was quiet. Many people before Deepika saw this, but just turned a blind eye.
You see, in Gurugram, we do have Resident Welfare Association. It is their responsibility of also who is working in every household, whether police verification of that domestic help was done or not. And see, across Gurugram or NCR region, if you can see it, there are young girls, adolescent girls who may be trafficked and have been brought by these fake placement agency. India don't have a placement agency act. So it is the responsibility of these resident welfare associations to look into that who is inside that campus.
But may I just add, sometimes the RWAs are also the problem.
Oh yes.
Because when you say that the staff has been verified, police verification, a lot of this just sounds like harassment for them. There's so many layers that they have to do, but they know nothing about the employer that they're working for.
No,
There's
police
no background check on
verification
them.
is simple. They have to just verify from the source as well as from the destination police station that details of the girls, what is the age of this girl, and this placement agency. They all these the verification is done by these all fake placement agencies who are traffickers. We have seen, we have several
but the
cases.
trafficker here is not the problem. The problem is what's happening in the home. The employer is the problem.
No, but it starts from a trafficker who procure the girls from very interior villages.
Sure. But whether she was a 13-year-old procured, brought from a village, or whether she's a 22-year-old choosing to work because she needs a job now, the final abuse is at the hands of the employers.
Yeah. Yes. So we don't have a law on this.
Okay.
Another thing that if I may add, Sarah, here, in this case particularly, they had made fake Aadhaar cards of the girl, and even after this couple got arrested, they were trying to prove that she is a major. I wish to, put this on your show today, a larger point. What is the point of having an Aadhaar card until unless it is connected to a database where we can verify whether that Aadhaar card is right or not? If there was a system like that, it would be very clear that this is a fake ID, it's not real, and they would have understood that she is a minor who cannot be employed, right? It's under child labor.
And you see this placement agency.
So the agency had made the fake Aadhaar card.
Yes.
And these placement agency, this fellow who was running a placement agency, he was having already 2 cases registered in Simdega district of Jharkhand. And yet he was a proclaimed offender in this case. So series of cases this fellow was doing it, but nobody was knowing, understanding that.
आप बताइए कि हम placement agencies के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं कि they saying the problem lies there, they're bringing these underage girls etc. But आपकी experience क्या है? Because since you started working as a female bouncer, you realize that there is a huge demand for domestic staff and help, and आप provide करते हो ये services. क्या आप check करते हो जहाँ पे काम करेंगे उस घर की क्या, like what is the situation in that house, what are the employers like, आप कभी वो check करते हो? Do you take references when you are putting one of your girls, if I can call it that, in these homes?
और लड़कियों के लिए तो हम चेक करते ही हैं. जैसे अब बाउंसर हो गए, मेड हो गए, जहाँ भी हम मतलब लड़कियाँ देते हैं ना, तो हम पहले उनके बारे में पता करते हैं, क्योंकि 30 ईयर तो बहुत छोटा हो जाता है, इलीगल माना जाता है. बच्चे को हम जॉब के लिए नहीं भेज सकते. सबसे पहले उनका घर का माहौल देखते हैं, कैसे लड़की रहेगी, क्योंकि कंपनी का अथॉरिटी है अपने, अगर कोई शिकायत आती है, हमें कंप्लेंट मिलती है, हमारी लड़की ने गलती की है, हम लीगल तरीके से उसके खिलाफ एक्शन ले सकते हैं। ये नहीं है हमने यहाँ लड़की भेजी है काम के लिए, मेड भेजी है, तो वो उसके लिए उसके
नहीं, बट आप फॉलो अप करते हो, क्योंकि जैसे यू आर सेइंग द प्लेसमेंट एजेंसी हियर वाज द प्रॉब्लम,
नहीं,
दे
हम
डिडंट
करते हैं,
फॉलो
सारे follow करते हैं।
in a month or in a few weeks to ask how is she doing, what's happening, because she wasn't allowed to talk to anyone. Right, so it works both ways.
Correct.
You cannot have this kind of abuse unless it's a system that props you up.
Correct.
Okay, Brinda Adige, I want to just go back to the question I was trying to ask Rishikant. Why does this happen? You know, this mindset that she's working for me, I'm paying her a salary, so I can ask of her anything. I can come home from a party at 1 o'clock at night and I may want a cup of tea, so I don't care if you're sleeping, wake up and make it. Or I may be watching TV and you're sleeping in the drawing room, but I'll watch TV till 3 a.m. and enjoy my Netflix, even though you can't sleep until I get off the couch. Where does this mindset come from? Is it about power?
It is about power, Sarah, but it is also about caste. It is also about how I look at somebody who's working for me. So words that we use are like maid, servant. We never say domestic worker, domestic help. Because when you use that word, you understand that there are a lot of other ramifications, connotations attached to it. So that word servant, my maid, that continues to say that you are there. You are my slave and you should be at my beck and call. That is one mentality and mindset. The other being, usually, the people who come to work in our homes or in our garden or probably as our drivers, somewhere we also think that because we have money, the so-called middle and upper middle class, the others are poor and can be treated in any which way, and nobody dare question me. The fact that I'm giving them a job, they must be grateful for it. So this is the mentality. There is not even a holiday
for it.
Sorry?
No, I'm just repeating what you're saying. They must be grateful for it is what we believe.
Absolutely. And the third is the system. We know that there is no monitoring whatsoever from any of the system. Look at what our labor laws have become today. But even in that constricted, restricted laws that we have today, the Labor Department has a domestic workers desk, but they have done nothing. They're supposed to have been educating RWAs, talking to people, telling them that there is an ombudsman, there is some kind of a support that you can get if you are in any kind of trouble. But we know that they don't even spread information, create awareness, and they don't also have a helpline. Now, here we had Sakhi, but we know that most helplines across India are with the police. How strongly and how significantly they look at a complaint that might be coming from either a person who is engaged or is employed as a domestic help or by somebody else is a big question. One. Two, because you're a woman, that complaint does not get treated seriously. And if the person, we know now, if you want to get this kind of a job, you come away from your state, which means you do not know the local language. You have no other community support in that area. You cannot fall back on anybody. The question that you asked, what were the other neighbors and the RWA doing? The big question is, why are we not bothered? Why are we not concerned? Why do we always say it is their problem? Let them handle it. I will not interfere into it.
You know,
So
we
the
have
public
some
on one
young
side-
journalists here, Brinda, in the audience. Since this is we the people, let's ask the people. आप लोगों ने सुना what Brinda ji just said. Let me ask you this question: have you ever seen an instance like this, perhaps in your own homes, of somebody being treated? Why do we keep quiet? Why do you think that is?
Okay, so such situations is not something that is new. We see, especially, we tend to ignore what happens in the rural India. If you go back there, I have my personal experiences that I have seen small young girls, like age somewhere around 9, 7, and even less than like 6 years old, as much as that, they work as domestic help.
No, but they work in our homes, right?
Yeah.
So when we were growing up, we must have had very young domestic help. Like now I'm employing my own, I don't employ somebody young, but you must have seen them working in your own homes. Are we desensitized? Why do you think that is? Let me ask, what do you call the help who works in your house? Do you call them ayah? Do you call them servant? Has that changed now that you all are educated?
Personally, it has changed, like for my parents and for me. But like if nanas or nanis or dadis, they come, they just call like, "Are idhara." Matlab, there's always a derogatory term or pejorative
but you
remarks.
do believe that you have changed. I would like to believe that young India there are more people like Deepika and young journalists like you. Do you believe that you've changed when you read? Okay. Does your help in your home use separate cutlery? Wow. Okay. So many people are saying
Sarah,
no. I don't know because they cook.
I don't think so.
for us,
Even the youngs are, are changing.
Okay.
Because especially in the northern India, in Gurugram or big cities, they have money and they think that they can exploit these young girls, especially the tribal girls who are coming from a very remote area. They don't even understand this whole, the entire NCR region, big cities. What is a big city for them?
So you work in big homes, but you have small hopes from your employers,
Very small
basically.
hopes.
I want to bring
Both the girl came for the medical help, for the medical support of their smaller brother.
I know, I heard that.
I just want to add to Rishi sir as well. Yes, a lot of young India has changed, Sarah, but I am looking at the visuals playing out over there where we all have seen those shocking visuals where this young advocate, she was an advocate who was beating and abusing the guards like anything.
Yeah.
We are predominantly discussing house helps who are girls, but we all have seen what is happening to the guards who serve our societies. I myself was living in a high-rise in Gurugram, and I used to talk to them, owing to, of course, my journalism background. I used to talk to them. In front of me, I've seen people abusing the guards as if, they think that they can just slap them, yell at them, and these abusers are both men and women. Men use strength, women use abuses so much. And we saw nothing happen to this lady as well on the screen.
And we have, there's so much to talk about. We can do a whole different show on security guards. But I think focusing on the domestic help is more crucial because they're at home. There's the personal, is the political, they're stuck in
true. We get several cases of sexual abuse.
Yeah, I can imagine. I want to bring in Amitabh Raj. I want to ask you, the irony is that we're talking about people getting jobs, people are starting to work in nuclear families, and they need help now at home because they're away at work, right? Why is it, Amitabh, that the upper and middle class population of the country is so conscious of their rights? We are increasingly conscious. We're working in workspaces. If I am told at work today that I have to work 7 days a week, I will make sure I get my comp off.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm very aware of my rights. This advocate would have been fighting for a creche at the courts.
Exactly.
But when it comes to your workers at home, we don't want to see them as anyone who has rights. In fact, we want to see them as invisible. Like, don't be seen. Just get the work done. Why do you think this is, according to you, what is the reason behind this discrimination?
So, thank you, Sarah. And before I respond to your question, I just want to say thank you to Deepika. And kudos to you for what you did. I hope we have many, many more Deepikas.
And organizations like Shakti Vani who've been working for years. I want to just let our audience know we have the number. Please take it down. Keep it in your phone. So if you do come across a situation like Deepika, you're not like looking on the internet. Just save it in your phone so you can call these numbers. Sorry, go ahead, Amitabh.
No, just a big salute to all of them. Just responding to your question, I would completely agree with what Brinda was saying, that it is essentially about power and privilege. And when you look at power and privilege, it is, what was happening, say, in the caste-ridden society of India in rural hinterland has actually come to the urban spaces. So it is this sense of entitlement and the unequal society that we have created. So when you say that we are aware of our rights, there is this understanding with the kind of unequal society we have, with the privileges that one thinks that we have, the other person does not have those privileges. And in fact, very often the kind of violence that we are seeing, and I hope justice is done very soon in this case. But very often this kind of oppression and brutalization is also the mindset of saying we need to show them their place. It is reinforcing the hierarchies that we are talking of. So, I think it's really a very fundamental question of how we are organizing society. We have accepted inequality as something which is given. And we have created two classes, one class which has the rights, whereas the others are only here to serve. And it's not very different from, say, the white supremacist, the colonial mindsets, or the caste mindset.
Yeah.
So we really need to do that. And Sarah, I would say that I hope that we also unpeel the onion a little more. That, I hope that justice is done at this juncture with this girl who's obviously a child, but with their systemic questions of what does really happen to the informal sector. We have almost 10% of the e-shram registrations as domestic workers.
Yeah.
Why can't we look at the contracting that's being done? You talked of
Is
most
there
of
any
them
regulation of the sector?
No.
The regulation, as we've already heard from many others, that there are some laws, but the implementation of those laws has been extremely poor. It's just not been there. So I think, till we start looking at this whole question as a fundamental question, and I would really say that the entire informal sector, very often we are hearing stories of the domestic worker, which is critical, but once you go to the supply chains, whether it's the sugarcane industry or the agriculture labor, very often you will hear stories of sexual abuse, of all kinds of ill treatment of the workers.
Yeah.
So there's a much larger conversation, systemic conversation also needed, while we certainly need to focus on this domestic violence that we see around us. And it's horrendous that it happens just right next to us. And as citizens, I think we all fail. As in, just look at the RWAs. What do?
Yeah.
They are essentially those horror stories. I find that horrible that women, domestic worker, have to use a different lift. They need to use a different steps. They need to actually show their bags when they're entering the building. They need to show their bags when they're leaving the building.
So you're dehumanizing the other. You're basically stripping them of any sort of dignity or sense of self. So if someone treats me badly, I don't see it as anything unusual. It's like part of my everyday life. Let me ask, how many of you live in colonies where the staff, you have those lifts that say separate lifts for staff or for dogs and dog walkers, etc.? Any reactions? Have you thought about this? Have you raised such issues with your RWA?
I have personally not witnessed, like you are saying, a separate lift for workers. I have personally not witnessed any such case. But yeah, it is prevailing in, I would say, urban areas don't have like this hierarchy issues. But in semi-urban areas, I think that
Anyone else? Quick responses? Go ahead.
I think especially these kind of things we see in Gurugram, Noida, Ghaziabad, Faridabad, that you have a separate lift for the domestic help.
No, what is the logic behind this?
It's just that they are poor. We don't treat them.
It's the same old untouchability, if I would say, Sarah.
We don't treat them as human. But
they are different than others.
They come to our house, wash our utensils, but we want a separate.
They make our food. You eat your food.
Yeah, we eat
No, so I would rather wait for a lift to come and not go in an empty lift.
This is all the mindset.
Yeah.
I am rich, you are poor. So you use a different lift. So the mindset is, we need to work on these mindsets.
I just want to add something there, Sarah. I think, whenever a case happens, we as media persons, take it up, we discuss it so much. But what is happening in the day-to-day life?
Yeah.
I think, what are the agencies that have been appointed to actually work doing? Are the child welfare agencies working with these placement agencies? Are they doing a check every 4 months or every 6 months that no child is employed over there? What are the agencies doing on a day-to-day basis to ensure that this does not happen? When it happens, we discuss, but otherwise we all know other than that.
Sarah, the important point here is that we don't have a placement agency act. The only state which has a placement agency act is Chhattisgarh. Otherwise, no state,
Nobody
even
else
Delhi
has
has no. The Delhi High Court has given lot of directions on this.
So there's
but the
complete
Delhi-
apathy even by our organization, our government towards
Yes.
this issue.
And
Okay, we're
Rishi
out
sir
of
was
time, but I
telling me
want to
that
just-
this lady, there was earlier a case which actually came in media as well. Right? It's about Vandana. What punishment did she get?
The similar case happened in Vasant Kunj.
Yeah.
And that lady was only punished for 1,000 rupees. Similar case. The same picture I am witnessing. And I was the prime witness in that case. It was pathetic for me to go in the court and to for 4 years the trial happened.
So I want to ask, Mehrunisa ji, you've seen the system. System is very unequal and it's, it's against the staff that work in these homes. जब आपके पास ये लड़कियां आते हैं, आप उनको क्या बताते हैं? How do you try and build their confidence when they are going out into homes like this?
जब भी हम मैन पावर देते हैं ना, जैसे अभी मेड का था, या हम सिक्योरिटी पे भेजते हैं या शेफ पे लड़कियों को भेजते हैं ना, तो हम उन्हें पहले ही ट्रेनिंग देते हैं मार्शल आर्ट की, देन उसको तो वो अलग बात है, लेकिन हम उन्हें समझाते भी हैं अगर आपके लिए थोड़ा सी भी कोई बदतमीजी करें, कोई भी बात हो तो आप हमसे छुपाना मत, हमें बताना। हम पहले तो अपनी लड़कियों से पता करते हैं, देन अगर हमें लगता है कि हमारी लड़कियों की गलती नहीं है, सामने वाली की गलती है या हमारी लड़कियों की गलती है, तो दोनों पार्ट को हम देखते हैं अच्छे से। जिसकी गलती होती है हम लीगल तौर पे एक्शन लेते हैं और हम किसी को अथॉरिटी नहीं देते कि हमारी लड़की को कोई हाथ लगाए या बदतमीज से बात करे, क्योंकि आपके यहाँ अगर हमने मेड दी है या सिक्योरिटी में कोई भी बंदा दिया है या शेफ कोई दिया है, मतलब किसी भी डिपार्टमेंट में, तो पहले हमें कंप्लेंट करेंगे, हम लीगल तरीके से उनसे पूछताछ करेंगे। ये हक नहीं है कि आप हमारी बच्ची के साथ में इतनी बदतमीजी से करें, इतनी बेरहमी से।
In this case, Sarah, this child was working at another home for 3 months before she was employed in this Gurugram hellhole. She had brought 1,000 rupees with her. This monster, Manish Khattar, snatched that away. For 5 months, she was not given a single penny. What she told me was, Didi, मुझे 10 रुपए भी नहीं देते थे. Her phone was not recharged. That's why, because she didn't have any money, so she couldn't inform anyone.
And of course, they're so young. The girls is so young,
And just
they're
imagine,
so
she's
vulnerable.
a tribal girl from a very interior
And never been
district.
to a city like
Not
this. Has
even
no
talking to her parents.
Yeah.
I think in the end, we're completely out of time, but I feel like we, the middle class of India, the upper middle class, have no prescribed code of conduct, and we have to figure out this for ourselves as a nation about having a set of rights for domestic workers and a code of conduct for those who employ them.
I just want to make a statement here, Sarah. This is my humble request to everyone. हम लोग अपने सामने सब देखते हैं ये होते हुए, लेकिन अपनी आंखें बंद कर लेते हैं. Salute to that boy. I'm sure you're listening me today. Thank you for speaking up, and I think everyone, we should not unsee such violence at all.
Thank you all for joining us just to be part of this conversation. Thank you.